Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to another sunny episode of In the Abyss. Me and the Holy Man this week, and joined by, quite frankly, UK death metal royalty, Mr. John Walker from Cancer.
Uh,
don't,
Hey man,
don't snigger at that.
that's very nice. Bit
Uh,
of a
uh, oh my God, thanks for coming on. It is a bit of an honor, really, because I don't think that's an unwielding comment. I think it's fair to say. So, cheers for joining us.
yeah, well, pleasures.
This this
Pleasure.
this is a bit of a fanboy moment for me because I've been listening to you guys for a long time. I walked into a vinyl shop years ago when I was at university, and I didn't know much about you guys at the time, and I just picked up Sins of Mankind, and like I looked at the cover and I was like, this looks awesome. I need to buy this, and I've been listening to that album ever since. So like, this is awesome. This is really cool to meet you and get to chat to you because like I've been listening to you guys for ages. Sins of Mankind is one of my favorite albums. I fucking love it.
Oh gosh, wow. Um,
Don't run away. Don't run away. Don't run away. It's fine. So we got you on to talk about the new record mainly. No doubt we'll touch on the earlier days as well. So the new record's Inverted World. It's out on the 25th of April. So that's still the case.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's when you
Um,
get.
yeah. I mean, tell us a little bit about it to start with, I suppose. I mean, from listening to it from our point of view, I can sense a bit of a theme throughout the album. And it's kind of a bit of a a grim picture of what shit state this world is in at the minute. So yeah, give us your side of it, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I started writing it after the COVID lockdowns, and we had it quite severe here in Spain. I mean, I had convoys of police and ambulances with their lights going around the estate. It was like, oh my gosh, George Orwell was right, and so it was like it was after that, seeing how the imposition that government could have and how easily swayed people were, and with everything, there was some voices of dissent. But I mean, it was right said Fred, wasn't it, in Morrissey? Do you remember? It's like, of all the choices, I mean, I suppose Morrissey maybe, but right said Fred.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like but I remember like Gene Simmons and you know Dee Schneider as well. He was quite vocal about, you got to stay indoors, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger, So
Yeah,
but
yeah, it was
anyway,
peculiar.
the problem is I grew up listening to the Pistols, Crass, Dead Kennedys, and stuff like, and then on to Motorhead and Venom. I mean, it's just not gonna that type of thing's not going to go down well with my world. Being told to stay in. It's like what, and I understood, but with the COVID thing, because I had the injection, and that was bad enough.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but anyway, I started writing after that, and it was kind of, I think it was that what fueled it, really. I got on the case, and it was kind of, yeah. Then the theme is how easily people will agree to their own deaths. you know,
when you
whether
yeah
it's
when you put it that way, it's not a pretty picture, is it? Really?
no, no, it isn't. From suicide cults to being swindled by the acid bath murderer, you're dealing with. That's what you're dealing with in the world. It's an unsafe place regarding that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
yeah.
That's true. That's true. So you just said you live in Spain. How long have you been out there then? And sort of how does that
I've been
compare to
here,
living in the
I've been
UK?
here 20 years come
Oh, fuck
November.
me. Okay.
So, yeah.
I was living in Italy during COVID and the lockdown. So like I was in a similar boat
Wow.
to you. We had the uh the tannoy systems like put on the back of fire trucks, and it was just telling people, "Hi, what are you doing?" And then like, but from like March to like May, and you're locked up, and it's really nice weather outside, and you're like, I just want to go outside and just walk around the park or something. And then you had these like where I was living, the mayor of the town was walking around he was doing patrols, and he was like going up to people, just going, "What are you doing out playing basketball? Fuck off home and play Nintendo." It's just like, dude, calm down.
Yeah. No.
Well, I mean, it's just going through a couple of sort of moments on the album, especially. I mean, like the title track, for instance, famine, plague, and slaughter. The world knows no quarter. I think a line like that kind of sums up where you're going with this album. And as I kind of went through it, I thought, fuck me, this does kind of suggest that, ever since you're right, ever since COVID, nothing's felt right, has it? Nothing's felt the same. It's bleak.
Perhaps it was the COVID that gave us the respite to actually acknowledge what's actually going on in the world.
Yeah, maybe.
Once you've seen it, it's like, oh, okay, nice one. When you get up to date with current affairs and you see the propaganda, the thick propaganda, and you realise why you listen to metal in the first place, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can't not being able to go to gigs, all of that stuff. It was just so depressing. And then we're coming out the end of it. The first year or so was still a bit sort of tentative, but I suppose now everything being back in full swing. It's 5 years since it started. For fuck's sake, it's mad, absolutely mad. So yeah. Yeah, just a couple of other highlights on the album for me. Test Site is another one which straight away the date at the start, kind of get what that's all about. First ever atomic bomb. What's the sort of story behind dropping something like that into the album?
Yeah, I wanted to do something because a lot of the songs are using that traditional song structure. The verse, chorus, that type of thing. I've tried to be kind of creative with it, but I wanted something that started one way and kind of finished in a completely different way. And I did the same with Jesus for Eugenics. And I was umming and ahhing. I was seriously thinking about writing a song about Jimmy Savile. And then I thought, well, no, we did Crime Survival on the last album. We'd done enough of that, tasteless incest. And I was like, no, I'm just gonna. And it was watching Twin Peaks, the last season of Twin Peaks when they had 9 Inch Nails on.
Yeah.
And then there was that atomic bomb. It's just like, it was David Lynch at his best, I thought. And it was in black and white. You see it, and it's like, And I think it was that stirred it. And strangely enough, then the Oppenheimer film came out.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, it's again, we just came and did a tour in Italy, and we played a show in Switzerland actually, and we were listening to the Manhattan Project by Rush. We keep seeing the similarities. But yeah, I suppose it's a prequel to Imminent Catastrophe. There you go.
Well, there you go. There's the title for the next album. And yeah, Jesus for Eugenics was another one that stood out for me. That's my favorite track on the album for a start, but the title itself is pretty provocative. So what's going on with that one then? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I can't remember where it was Planned Parenthood or it was one of these institutions that would covered up eugenics, like I don't know, institutions that promoted that. And I think at one stage that was their slogan, that Jesus was for eugenics. It was the right thing to do.
Yeah,
that was when they had the forced sterilization programs and IQ counts and things like that. You still hear it today, don't you? You still hear people like Ben.
Yeah, you had the whole all the graves they uncovered in Canada with the Anglican church groups and then on the Indian reservations there as well. There's some messed up stuff came out just after COVID. It's like COVID was bad enough, and then you find out all this other stuff being going on as well. So
yeah, it's a pretty dark world, really. And eugenics.
It was actually, like what you were saying about David Lynch and like Twin Peaks. I think if I like that TV show as well. I mean, but if you go back and even watch things like the first 6 seasons of the X-Files, and some of the stuff on there you're seeing now, and it's like some of that stuff that came out in the 90s was bang on to predict it. No,
no, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I can remember when it was Area 51 was a conspiracy theory, and you shouldn't look into that. So
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, it was declassified. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it is a funny one, but that, like I said, it's probably the standout track on the album for me. I like the way that it starts all kind of sort of dark and brooding, and then you go sort of full thrashy death metal, and then it slows down again towards the end, and it's all sort of a bit more sludgy, and the dynamics of that song are fucking absolutely fucking bang on. I really took to that one. I think the album as a whole, because you've slightly different lineup again now. If that's
Yeah, well, we've had a lineup change since the COVID.
Yeah.
It's my partners in crime bailed after the COVID, so I had to get new guys in. So I got some local guys playing, and it's been like that for the last 4 years. So.
Yeah, it feels like a really sort of cohesive album. This one, I've really enjoyed it. It's I'm really fussy when it comes to death metal. There's got to be a groove and there's got to be a hook when it comes to death. All that stuff out there that's just balls out 100 mile an hour. Just I've never been able to kind of get on with it. Yeah, the early days of Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that. It's never really tricked. But this is flicking my switch. This one definitely.
What I like as well is that what you're saying about groove, Tregenza. It's like the song "Until They Died." There's a really groovy riff in that, and as well. And I think another standout parts of the album are like there's a couple of solos on there which are really good, like the solo in "Corrosive" and the solo in "Inverted World." But really, like I just kind of put my head up and was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool, man." But I think that's indicative of most of your back catalogue. With what Tregenza was saying, it's like it's not just one thing all the time. You guys are really good at mixing it up and like putting in different like song structures and stuff. Going all, and that's one of the things I've always liked about your stuff. So, you can see it again on.
Well, it's that old school view, really, and over the years, you pick up different things, and so I mean the guitarist Robert, he'd be will be very pleased to hear that you picked out his leads. So
what I find interesting is that you're saying that you're at the moment you're working with some like local guys. You said so that I'm assuming they're Spanish, yeah.
Yeah, well, the drummer plays in Wormed, and he's half American and half Spanish. Danny works kind of with. I've met him. He works in the scene. He kind of helps to put on shows. So he speaks a few languages. So I mean, they're quite international people. Okay.
Yeah. So you find that lends itself to the songwriting process? Like you've got different takes on stuff, for example.
Well, if I'm a bit of a pain in the arse, actually, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and I have a tantrum and throw my toys out the pram, and then I have to go back home and rewrite it or something like that. So I'm with with what you said, Steve. It's got to flick my switch.
Yeah,
and I'm the biggest critic, and it doesn't matter if I listen to other metal bands. Or anything, that's just going to be comparing, isn't it? It's got to actually hit me and strike a chord in me, and then I'm kind of like, well, go along with that, and we'll, and with the new guys, they're just kind of like they like to rehearse, so we get together, we rehearse, and eventually it works,
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, if you don't like it, then you can't put it out, can you? It's just.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, for me, it's a bit of like a filler. There's a I don't really want to do that because you don't get the opportunity to do albums. albums often. So
No, that's true. That's true. And obviously for a lot of bands, COVID has got in the way, and we speak to quite a few bands who've had sort of 5-6 year gaps between albums, and you're about 7 years, I think, aren't you, since the last one?
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's yeah. I mean,
We had a lineup change.
yeah, well, yeah, that obviously, but you go back to the early days of Sabbath and Purple, or they're releasing albums every kind of like 9-10 months back then, and that's just not the case now.
Yeah, they didn't have Space Invaders or Xboxes or internet and shit like that. They didn't have much. They used to go, it was.
Yeah, but like with Sabbath, by Sabbath, bloody Sabbath, they did have some distractions, but they just weren't electronic.
Yes, it was Rick Wakeman. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but yeah, there was. Yeah,
it's
the album Inverted World. I'm glad you like it because for the recording aspect, the actual recording aspect was actually really good, but the weight that we had to put up with between them to wait. So I mean, I did the guitars. I can't remember whether I did the vocals before. I went to China. I went to China to play a few shows, and then come back. And you got to kind of recover because I'm quite long in the tooth. My metabolism doesn't adjust very easily from that type of thing, and so it kind of knocks you out of kilter with it. And then so back in the old days, even with Cancer, when we recorded with Scott Burns, it was all lads in together, type of thing. Yeah, come on, we've got to get it done.
Well, I mean, everybody wanted to record with Scott Burns anyway, didn't they? So if you're in there, you fully embrace it, don't you? You get on with it.
What was it like playing in China then? How was that for you?
That was it was tremendous because of the culture. Seeing the Chinese with their death metal T-shirts on and their black jeans.
And, Was it just China you were playing? Or did you play in other parts of Asia?
No, it was just China. It was it finished it was 2 shows. The first one was in Jiangxin, I think it was called. I think that's the place near Peking. And the next one, the other show was in Shanghai, which was more international. I had a wonderful time. Really did have a tremendous time with the Chinese guys.
Yeah, you expect a country like that to be hungry for it as well, don't you? Because then I can't imagine. I don't really know, but I can't imagine many metal musicians in general tour that much in China. I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah. I really don't know.
No, that's what I mean. It's such an unknown quantity, but it's. This is it's also the second time with Peaceville as well. Have you found a bit of a home? Obviously, legendary label, Peaceville. Been around for a long time, putting out so many great albums over the years. How did that sort of relationship come about?
I think it was through Matt Vickers' stuff.
Okay,
because he did the artwork for my third Liquid Graveyard album.
Yeah.
Which I recorded with Shane and Nick. And I think it all came about through hearsay with my wife and stuff. I don't know what happened, but they got interested with us doing an album, and it turned out to be a 2-album deal. So, but yeah, they're great label to work with. By far the best label I've worked. I mean, I've, in the past, I tended not to have much to do with labels and things like that. But with this album, I've been dealing with Paul there and Matt and Connor, and they really are a great bunch of guys, to work with. Almost like like working with your mates.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it should be like. They should be fans, and just what you've got, enthusiasts, however you want to put it. That's what they should be. If that's your living, you need to be living and breathing it.
And you're making music. You're not working in an office with a HR department. It's got to be less formal than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the sleeve with Paul, we had quite a long conversation on the telephone. I was telling him what the songs were about, the themes of the songs, and the general idea of the album. And I said I wanted to try and incorporate the style like which we used on the last album, but with the Aztec pyramid that was on the Sins of Mankind on that inner sleeve, and he came back with this sleeve idea, and I thought, wow, yeah, nail on the head.
Yeah, it really is. Literally, people queuing up to die. Yeah, it fits perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Look, the album artwork's important. I mean, obviously the album's coming out on vinyl as well, and I think when everything being digital these days is this tiny little image, to have a proper album cover and all on vinyl, I think it's important. Everything needs to work. There's a lot of his album artwork out there now. He's just quite lazy, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. It does. You know what's going on inside.
Yeah, it strikes the right chord with the theme of the album completely.
Yeah, it definitely does. Grim, bleak, and fucking miserable.
Gory.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. So I'm assuming you've got one show in London coming up. Are you going out to tour this album? Are you going to do the festival circuit and all that jazz that seems to be the necessary evil these days?
Yeah, we've got to play. I think we're going to play Antwerp. We're going to play that festival in Antwerp. I forgot the the name of the festival has removed itself from my memory at the moment. But we're going there. Then we've got the London, Swindon, and there's a lot of talk about stuff. Okay, we did a couple of shows in North America last year with the China, and we played in London before. So with this, we once the album's out, we're hoping to get on the right set of gigs really, and do try and promote it in the live sense. I mean, we're going to be playing a good amount of songs off the new album when we go out live. We just did like I say, a small tour of Italy, and we tested it out there really, and it worked nice. They fit in with the set. Especially the upbeat songs. Like Covert. Yeah.
Do you find that sort of getting out and touring these days is way more of a challenge than it used to be? Traveling. Obviously, I know you live in Spain now, but certainly for UK-based bands going into Europe and things like that, a lot of bands have told us how difficult it is now to get out and about, and how much more expensive it is to get around the world and things like that. Are you finding that as well?
I think it's we're just getting bogged down with more and more paperwork and bullshit. And we've got rather extreme views being voiced in media. And I think that we're being dehumanized to not see people as humanity.
No, that's true. Yeah,
I think
that's true.
No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think as well, like there seems to be a lack of charity. Like people are willing to just assume the worst of people rather than like actually just stop and like not have these like visceral reactions. So
yeah,
I mean that's something that we need to like readjust to, maybe like not go to the extreme, because then you get the backlash, and then the backlash is just extreme, and you just caught in a perpetuating circle.
Yeah, it's just become mean, hasn't it? In some places,
yeah,
the rhetoric.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone's out to squeeze everybody else. I mean, like in the UK at the moment, there's bars and gig venues and everything like that closing down all the time, and it's all because of squeezes from landlords, from local councils, it's almost like no one wants anybody to achieve anything anymore. It's just a bizarre
I
existence.
hate to say it, but it's this corporate takeover.
Yeah.
Because the more they can depend on, I mean, the smaller venues, the bigger venues would be okay, but the underground music doesn't get voiced.
No. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. All
See how it works.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. All your fucking academies and all these places, they're all fine.
The larger business interests within the music industry cannot control the messaging that comes out from underground bands. So once you bring them into the fold, and then you basically burden them with paperwork, legal terms, contracts, agreements, you can control them, and you go, no, you can't write a song about that. No, you can't do that. You can't play at that venue. No, okay, no, you've got to give them 25% of your merch sales, and it's just like, and it's all about getting people into a system where they can be kind of packaged, controlled, refined, like have any kind of like independent voice raised out of them. And it's like, it's sad that it's happening to metal, because that was metal's bread and butter. That it wasn't like that, and it's become sanitized to some extent.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I basically what the UK needs to do is in terms of like the Trump's tariffs, is we need to put tariffs on British steel, not the material, the album, so that America gets cut off. America gets cut off from metal. Like, you can no longer export British metal to America without a 50% tariff or something.
Yeah.
No more priests for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, take priest. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Look, it's 2025. You've 35 years since To the Gory End. Are you planning to do anything with that? These are the days of everybody celebrates an album landmark and all that. You want to do anything with it?
We basically, when we're going out, we're playing songs off the new album and songs off To the Gory End.
Right. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
So we've got a set like that. So, with a couple of the classics, as well. But generally that. So,
do you keep up much with the modern day metal scene at all? Do you listen to much, in the way of newer music, newer bands?
Yeah, I mean, I listen to bands that I play with mostly.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's the only time when I get to. I liked the Triumph of Death album. I got that, and so I listened to that with my son when we do some exercise. So I mean, I listen to music still, and I still buy CDs, So
actually, that's the funny, because CDs, obviously there's a big thing about vinyl at the minute. It's having a real resurrection, has done in the last couple of years. But people are buying CDs again as well, and cassettes. Physical music in general is making a comeback, which is good to see.
Yeah. There's the thing is with metal, and there's that link with horror, isn't there? Horror films, and it's a genre, and it's a cult genre, and with those kind of horror, those type of things, it's highly collectible.
Yeah,
it's highly collectible. So if it's marketed right, or if it's done right without the corporate stamp, that gives it the Taylor Swift look. If they do it properly, it can be. It's there's nothing wrong with it then, I remember Alchemy Metal, metalware.
Yeah, I remember that. But even that's a good point, actually. The Alchemy Gothic clothing. You got brands these days like the Great Frog in London. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Jewelers do the same kind of thing, but it's much more high end. It's marketed in the same way, but it's all really high end materials. So it's obviously a lot more expensive. Yeah. So there's that shift as well, that everything almost has to have more of a financial value now to make it more collectible. I don't know what it is, but it's an odd one. Yeah. It's an odd one. Fuck me, the Alchemy Gothic stuff. And that's a throwback.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was quality.
Yeah. Didn't you? Was your ring, Brian, that you named it? Was that not? That was Alchemy Gothic, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Alchemy Gothic. Yeah, and then I had the choker as well with the three skulls and the teeth.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see,
and the dice. That was a good one. Yeah,
it was.
I lost the ring. The ring I had. That's in Pompeii somewhere.
It's in Pompeii somewhere.
I lost it. Yeah.
We got an endorsement. We had an endorsement from Alchemy Metalware on the Sins of Mankind, actually.
Fucking really?
I had a Jimmy Savile bracelet. So, shame. Yeah.
Fuck me. Look, death metal as a whole, right? So I go back to what I previously said. I'm quite fussy when it comes to death metal. I've got I've got sort of standards I can, but I think it's very popular in the minute, death metal, right? There's a lot of great new bands coming along, but there's also legendary bands that are delivering some of their best material. So yourselves, the Benediction album that dropped last week is fucking brilliant. From the US, like Obituary, Mortar Skull, in the last couple of years have released great albums. It seems like there's that sort of hunger for something a bit more extreme. You know, death metal is up there at the minute. It seems to be the flavor of the month. Are you finding that? Do you have much contact with newer bands? The bands are sort of citing you guys as an influence and things like that, because they should be if they're not.
No, not really. No. I saw
It's the
Deicide.
ingratitude of kids nowadays. You know, just like know where it comes from. You know, they don't remember Sins of Mankind. Come on, have some fucking respect.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's citing what was done before, isn't it? That's the thing. That it's the evolution of music.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was Venom, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, and Bathory that prompted me with Hell Awaits by Slayer, and these albums that really did it. This was coming in from Motorhead, by the way, and getting into it was extreme music at the time, and back in say like 80, 87, 88, there was Godflesh, Napalm Death,
yeah,
the Carcass were there as well, and it was an interesting time. It was an interesting time because of the how you say, the difference in the sound of the bands.
yeah,
Really,
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're in our mid-40s, so around about that time, we're still still haven't even reached sort of 10 years old. But I can only imagine going back to how extreme that stuff must have sounded.
Yeah,
You know, whereas now everything seems extreme now, but back then it must have been like, fuck me, this is just something.
Yeah, it was. I think when anything's new, I mean, you look at the film Frankenstein, the original 1931 James Whale version, and you look at it and you go, "Well, it's nicely gothic with that, German kind of gothic look about it." And then but you remember at the time when that came out, it must have been quite shocking if they had to put a warning. If they got one of the cast members to come out and do a speech saying, "Well, it does. It's not for the faint-hearted," But yeah, so back then, I mean, we come out of the 80s, wasn't it? It was back in the 80s type
back
of thing.
in the 80s, yeah,
the 80s, Thatcherism and
yeah. Sorry, my cat is fucking really pissing me off. Fuck off. Yeah,
Why?
fuck you.
Just get rid of it.
Fucking, you can't get out of the room. Did you ever think that, back in 1990, when To the Gory End comes out, you'd still be sitting here in 2025, still doing this? I know, obviously, you've had gaps, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a way, I have to pinch myself to actually see, am I alive? I made it, like, you go on YouTube, like they've got like actors who died in the last 2024, actors that died, and then it goes on to musicians, and I start to erase everything so I don't get the algorithm, death metal music. No, fuck off. So, I fortunate is the word.
Yeah,
I think fortunate that I'm actually still alive, and I'm obviously very grateful, to be sitting here, that first album.
yeah. Look, people do. it's mad that we look back in that those classic albums, whether it's yourself, with any band, and that I think what comes out now, you're not gonna. I don't. Well, I mean, obviously, I don't know, but I don't think we're gonna look back in 30 years' time at albums that came out in the 2020s thinking the same way. I don't think we're going to have that kind of longevity anymore.
Except inverted world, of course.
Of course. Of course. But on mass, you know what I mean? You know, we look back to 1986 and Master of Puppets and Rain in Blood. We look back to 1980, the first Maiden album. We look all of this. It's they're sort of.
Why do you think that shifted, Steve? Why do you think that?
I think we're in a more of a sort of a disposable way of life, aren't we? You know, every Friday now, you know, a new record comes out and there's sort of 60, 70 new albums, and people will listen to it for 30 seconds and go, I'm not keen on that, and stop listening to it. Whereas 30 years ago, you went out with your pocket money if you were a kid and you bought that album from our price or whatever, and you were invested in that. Yeah. And I think things just sort of stuck with you more, whereas now everything is just disposable. There's so much great music out there, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think. And that's not just metal either. I just don't think we'll be looking back in the same way.
It's not a slight on the quality of the music.
No,
it's
definitely
more
not.
Slight on the delivery system. You know, and like when you do get, like, for example, Black City Records in Bristol, that's a novelty, but it's successful because it's a novelty. Whereas back in the 90s or the 80s, record shops were not a novelty. So, you know, now you've got people making trips to go to specific record shops or specific record fairs to buy vinyl. Whereas, you know, now they're just like, everyone's just getting it on Spotify or they're watching the clip on YouTube and they're deciding whether or not they're going to buy it. Whereas back in the day, you didn't have that. You had to buy it unless you were lucky enough to like listen to something on a tape trading network, or you got the taster of the Kerrang, the CDs Kerrang used to put out. Because again, this is the thing. Like when you're talking about the 90s and stuff, like when we were at university, which was end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, like that's when they brought back that radio.
The Radio 1 Rock Show,
like, was it midnight on a Thursday? Was it anywhere you could get access to any kind of metal? And even then, the metal and hard rock you were hearing on those channels were not things like Cancer or Death or Morbid Angel. It was stuff like Guns N' Roses, Soundgarden, and it was the new metal stuff. MTV2 was mostly new metal, and thank God that's not around anymore. But
yeah, that's all of it in a nutshell. I think it's almost like we don't have time anymore to give things breathing space.
I mean, I can't remember the dates, but I can remember in my mind's eye clearly to this day the moment I bought At War with Satan by Venom, with the gatefold sleeve with the kind of like and the oh my God, and with the lyric sheet inside, and again with To Megatherion, and that came in the post from Shades Records in London. You know, like, oh my God, you know. So I'm not very good with dates, but I can remember it so well. You know, people talk about things like JFK's assassination, things like that. Well, where were you when you first heard To Megatherion? You know, or Rain in Blood?
Can you imagine asking someone in 30 years' time, what date did you add that album to your Spotify library? You know, it's not going to fucking happen, is it? You know, look, don't get me wrong. Go on. Sorry.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point, because you've got, like, if you can remember when you bought the album, and then again going back to like the 80s and the 90s, you would have then waited to see that band come around on tour, and then you would have. Those two things are inexorably linked. And then now, when did you add it to your Spotify list? And for me, like, I don't think I have one of those moments where I can say I waited for this album to come out, I went and got it, and it was like a game changer for me. Like, you know, you talk to older metal fans and they're like, oh yeah, I remember buying Master of Puppets, and it's like we all were like, holy shit, what is this? And then when Justice came out, we were like, oh, they've gone a completely different direction, and then we saw them on tour. or Megadeth or Slayer or whoever it is. I don't think we've had that.
No.
Mm.
No, we haven't. We were probably the last generation to be anywhere near that. Nowadays, obviously, it's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's not all negative, because it makes us sound like we're just sitting here fucking moaning about it. But it really isn't, because while there's less of a living to be made out of just producing music, you can at least get it out there easy. It's reaching more people a lot quicker. So I guess looking at it from looking at the positives from it, it is there.
Yeah, well, yeah. There are positive aspects of it, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the gatefold sleeve with poster.
But look, I still love it. Like I've got a relatively large vinyl collection, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things. And that experience of taking a record out, putting it on, looking at it, it's still an enjoyable process. People think it's mental. I mean, it's record store day today, and you've seen record shops up and down the country going absolutely mental. And I think that's gone in the wrong direction personally, but that's a different conversation. But it's still a thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I still buy my music. I have to say, I go to the shop but I buy it on CD because I'm not very good with vinyls. I'm a bit
takes up less space.
Well, I'm just not very good with it. They start to jump after a while. And then
yeah.
And I'm just like, you need somebody who's very careful. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to sort of teach my kids how to handle vinyl properly, because they want to listen to it, but it's like, you need to be careful. It's expensive these days as well.
The amount of vinyl albums I've completely bugged up, and I basically, because I live abroad and I've been abroad for so long, I gave my vinyl collection to someone else. But I remember I had a first edition of Peace Sells But Who's Buying, and I left it on the turntable, and I went to work. This was when I was about 19, and I didn't know that if you left it on the turntable and the sun was coming in through the window, when I got home, the vinyl looked like a fruit bowl. And I was like, no, what's happened? I completely fucked it. And I was like, damn it.
Oh.
And then you're like, nowadays you're looking at how much would it replace that first edition? And you're like, I can't fucking afford that.
Mine was about 60 quid. So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
But
mine costs like 4 quid. Mine costs 4 quid.
There you go.
Vinyl record on it.
But, like I said, it's not all bad. It's far from it. So,
well, it's nice to see a resurgence, isn't it? It's back with the collectible stuff, and the merch, and it's good. It should, it has to exist. It's not throwaway. It's not dance music. It's
it's proper fucking music. The only problem is with it is the price of it. It's an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Exactly. 30 quid is pretty much the standard now for a record. So it's a lot of money. But there you go. We'll sort of wrap it up. So plug away. Where can people buy the album for a start? Because obviously there is vinyl. I'm assuming there's CDs and that as well. Where can people get it online, in the shops, all that kind of thing?
I think the HMV, they're doing a
HMV
patch. Get a free patch if you buy it from HMV.
Well, there you
go. So you can get it from there. I don't think our price is still going, is it?
No, unfortunately not. No.
Or Virgin Megastore, But so and from the usual metal outlets, whoever you want to get it from, whether you want to get it from directly from Peaceville, So
it's like going back to it, it's a fucking great album. It's I've really enjoyed it. It sounds mean, it sounds heavy, it sounds pissed off, which is everything we want from a death metal record. So people need to go out and get involved.
Cheers, thanks for those words.
No, it's a good one. Look, good luck with it. Good luck with the tour. Good luck with getting out in the world, and hopefully people embrace it. And what date is the London show? Can you remember?
I can't know. I used to get told I get told a week before by my wife, so I don't get like nervous or anything like, as I go through life. So I have to kind of like manage my life with what information I'm getting in on a day-to-day basis. So I don't go on emails a lot, and I don't, it's all very much. So I get informed a week before usually when we have to rehearse.
Well, I can tell you it's 6th of September, New Cross in London, which is a fucking great venue. So
Wow.
there you go. It's quite a while off yet, but yeah,
After the summer holidays.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's that nice period when all the kids have fucked off back to school and the weather's still great, and you can still enjoy yourself. Yeah,
great.
Thanks loads for coming on. It's been really cool to chat, and yeah, people need to go out and check out the album. It's fucking great. If you're into your proper death metal, you're gonna love it. So go and get involved.
There's the Amputate that you can listen to already, isn't there? It's
there's 2 or 3 songs that are up on the streaming sites and that. So you can go and get a taste, and on the 25th, just after Easter and the resurrection of all that nonsense. Yeah. You can get it properly. So yeah, get involved.
The start of life, of nature. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's all a load of nonsense. Biggest work of fiction ever. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again next week with who knows what. We never know. Happy Easter. Happy thrashing. Stay metal. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.